I ain't got no cord. Look at this.
Well, then stand up on the stage like a superstar.
Put me in the center, man. Alright, no, so pretty much, I just want to tell you guys something real quick. All my viewers out there on Facebook Live, how y'all doing? It's not about me, all glory to God. So real fast, this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, me and Noah had the chance to go play out at a church in Morgan's Corner. Ashley was there. Thank you so much for coming out again.
Oh wow, cool.
But Saturday was kind of this youth event, and we played. That was our job. We came in there with our band, and you guys have seen Carson here before. She was out there singing with us, Jet. And Saturday it wasn't like too much was happening. It just kind of seemed kind of
mundane.
It's kind of like, all right, we had a bunch of youth there. Woohoo! I'm glad they came out. Sunday morning, it was kind of along the same lines with some older people this time because we played for their Sunday service. And I'm not gonna lie, I kind of had this feeling of like, dang, ain't nobody feeling nothing from this. Like, this is looking kind of warm. Well, at the end of the service on Sunday, when we were finishing out with our last couple of songs, there was a woman who actually gave her life to Christ. That's what I'm bringing up. Just kind of the whole idea of like, I didn't feel like I was doing much. But now that I look back at it, I'm super glad that I got to be a part of that, considering I was on the worship team. Not saying that I had anything to do with it. I don't want the glory for it. I want glory to be to God.
That's right.
But yeah, hey, it's another life gained in heaven.
Very cool.
So I just wanted to kind of share that real quick.
Very good. Thank you, Kenny.
Oh, sorry.
All right, now Tristan's got some stuff he's going to share with us today too, so I'm going to give him the mic and the floor.
Hello everybody, my name is Tristan Bush. Before I say this, first off, I want to let you guys know that, one, I do not want you guys to show any pity towards me at all, but I will state, I would ask you to kindly thank God for not only giving me the chance to come up here and talk about this stuff, but at the same time being able to share my stories with people who I meet either across the world or people who I meet in church. So, one, again, hi, Tristan Bush. I am 24 years old. When I was born pretty healthy, and the majority of it is pretty nice, but the one thing I never really grown up with is my father left pretty much when I was born.
Conceived.
And I had to grow up with stepdads or issues such as lead poisoning at the age of 5 and, 3. And somewhere down the line, I was also heavily abused by my stepdad by many ways. I'm not going to go too deep and graphic on that, but pretty much there's no doctor to this day who can sit there and tell me that I should be living at this given moment. However, through those experiences of going through almost every form of abuse, I've come across many hurdles such as relationship issues, trust issues, constant backstabbings, and constant fights. I got into plenty of fights when I was younger, to the point where I was given both swirlies pretty much day in, day out by my bullies, and it caused multiple skull fractures in my head, and it caused multiple issues throughout the time. With these issues came with disabilities and stuff that has pretty much still scarred me to this day. But even though I do have those scars, I can relate to people who have been abused to a certain extent. Because keep in mind, you're not gonna sit there and be like, oh, I know 100% what you guys have gone through. Because you're not. You may understand 50%, you may understand 60, maybe 70, but you will never understand 100% of what someone goes through unless you yourself steps into that person's shoes and go through exactly what they did. So, what I want to say is, when you guys, no matter who it is, because I say this heavily. If you guys see someone getting bullied, and I know this is going to sound very cringy because, schools talk about this all the time, don't they? But what I see a lot in schools is they don't take this stuff seriously. Teachers sometimes don't take this seriously. Well, actually, no, the majority of teachers don't take this seriously. Guidance counselors take it seriously to some degree. Principals don't care. Teachers don't care. Some do, some don't. But the majority of them don't. And the issue that this causes is that the people have to go through so much trauma, so much pain, and keep in mind, it doesn't have to always be at school. If someone's dealing with someone at home, that can affect them. You either face bullying sometime in your lives, and you probably, oh hey, why is this person bullying me? Because that individual has gone through some amount of suffering to make them to who they are today. So, something I saw earlier is about being the bigger person. Let the person keep talking, and someone makes fun of you. It's like, all right, okay, and you keep them going, and then they're like, okay, why should I care? And then in this saying, and I don't agree with this, and I don't suggest you guys do this either. They said, okay, why should it matter what you say, so on and so forth. You're nobody, turn around and walk away. Now, normally, in the world's eyes, that's okay for the world. But I would like to say, I want you guys, instead of walking away from it, let them throw insults, let them throw everything they have at you, but afterwards, ask them, why are you the way you are? Who is hurting you this bad to the point where you have to go and throw suffering on others? Now, sure, they may say, oh, well, I just enjoy, bullying people, or I enjoy, physically assaulting someone. They may say they enjoy it, but that means it came from somewhere. Because it's not going to straight up come out of nowhere. Someone's not going to be born like, yes, I want to go out today and I want to go fight 10 people. I'm going to come out 1v10ing everybody. No. That person has gone through some form of suffering that they need help. And I advise heavily, if you guys see someone getting bullied, to stand up to someone. Not just the person who's getting bullied, but also stand for the bully as it is. Wait until everything is done, and then ask them, why are you guys doing the things that you're doing? Is your parents hurting you? Is your sister hurting you? Is your guardians hurting you? All right? And keep in mind, they don't have to be your biological parents. They can be your step-siblings. They can be your step-brothers, step-sisters, step-mom, step-dad. But if you guys are seeing someone hurt, please go reach your hand out to them. Because they have some form of suffering that they need to be released from. And if you do not release them, well, we all see what happens. Whether it's people's lives being taken, the person ends up killing themselves. And I know that sounds pretty heavy, and it does. It's going to. But if you keep running away from these sort of situations, you keep running away from the fact, and people hate the word, when people say, I'm going to go kill myself, and people laugh it off as if it's just a joke. People laugh that off. Do you know how messed up that is?
Smell it.
It's really screwed up. Because that's someone's life that you could either save or help. Whether it's taking them to a therapist, and I'm not going to say this because I'm not 100% original on it. There are therapists out there who do genuinely care about you. But I will say this with full honesty. The best therapist that you can ever have is someone who genuinely cares for you. Someone who understands that you go to on a day-to-day life, and you go out and reach to that person, and you talk to them. You've shared your pain to them. You've told them your problems. You've told them your issues. You've understood their issues. You understand their problems. And so they know you best. They're the ones who know you the best. The majority of therapists out there, there are some that do care, but here's the thing. The majority of therapists, they're out there for a paycheck. They're not out there to, solve your internal crisis that you're having, all right? They're just there to get a paycheck and be so on and so forth. And you wonder why we have these issues in schools. Not only in schools, but also out in society. It's really screwed up. But the best person that person or individual can go to is go to their friend or someone who genuinely cares for them. Or if you guys want, you come to the church and people will either know that you're suffering, they'll see something wrong, and they'll come up to you and say, hey, what's wrong? Are you hurting? Now, you may know sometimes that may not happen. As you know, the Bible says, God works in his own time. Our time is completely different from his. So, what I'd like to get out is, please, just go reach your hand out to someone. Please. Because you never know when it stops. I have a friend who went to church, who well, granted, she was Catholic. She was Catholic, she was doing all this sort of stuff, and the teachers, the Catholics, or the people that she was going to, they were degrading her. They called her the F word. They say that, she was being possessed by a demon. She's doing all this stuff and she'll never enter heaven. And, they obviously did the things that you normally see on TV. They smack the hand and everything. And she's like, you want to know why I ran from Christianity? Or in general, that sort of stuff? It's because of that. Now here's the funny thing. That, in particular, is not what the Bible teaches. Throughout the entire thing of the Bible, it is all about being humble. Why? Because when you're humble, no matter how bad you were treated, you will always be humble. You'll get further in life. If you stop being humble, you stop caring for people, it's going to go downhill, the world's going to burn, so on and so forth. And we're already seeing that today.
Right.
That's exactly what we're seeing, especially in our generation.
Right.
And we sit there and say, oh, well, how could I solve this? How can this, how can we fix this? It's by being humble.
Right.
Now, granted, people don't like the words of the truth, and, people are going to get offended by the word of the truth. And it even states in the Bible that people will hate you. They'll degrade you. They'll do all this sort of thing. But the more that they do that stuff, the more that God looks at you.
Yep.
And this may sound like, to some people it may sound, gibberish or anything like that, but it's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
The one thing I learned in my life is to be humble. And throughout that humbleness, I was constantly backstabbed by my friends. Yeah. Heck, I was even whipped by my friends by a branch of a tree. And that sounds pretty bad. I actually had a scar on my back for a little while. Mom had to take a look at it, and I kid you not, she wanted to go sucker punch one of the kids.
No, his father.
She looked at that and, who did that? Who did that to you? Well, I told her it was my friends. She was shocked. She couldn't believe it because I knew these friends for a while. But for them to go out and do that, you never understand someone's true colors unless you actually know who they are. Mm-hmm. People have ulterior motives. People will do what they want to get what they want. Sadly, that's how this world works. As much as we don't like it, and as much as the world gets worse and worse and worse, we're even getting to the point where we're even letting murderers become less of their charge because of how cute they are. Did you guys see that? I know this generation has TikTok, so I'm pretty sure someone over here has probably heard that story of where a teen our age, or an adult roughly, went speeding so fast they hit two people. And now he's getting let off because he's cute. If that doesn't show how screwed up the law is at this point, I don't know what does. And not only that, we can also get out of situations because of money. As they say, money makes the world go round. Yeah, it sure does. It's a necessity, but it doesn't mean we have to love it. Why? Because we can do evil stuff with money. There are so many people out there who are going through suffering because of the money that has gone out there. People are like, there's clean money and there's dirty money. No, all money is dirty. I hate to break that to you guys, but all money is dirty. It's come from somewhere. Whether you know it or not, it could have came from someone who abused someone. It could have came from someone from being sold. This world is going down, and I cannot tell you how bad that is. At all. when we see these ads of, people suffering and whatnot, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it gets somewhat annoying sometimes when it's constantly shoved in your face. Whether there is scummy advertising or legitimate, genuine advertising. There's two sides to it. There are people who do care and there's people who don't. And one thing my friend said is, this is interesting. I was like, how so? It was like, because you've put it in a way that I can understand, and you're not being, rude about it. I'm not going to say the actual word, but you're being not rude about it.
You put what in a way?
I put the teachings of the Bible in a way that they can understand, but not also in the situation of not humiliating or degrading them.
Right. Say that again.
I put the Bible and the teachings of the Bible in a way that people would understand it, but at the same time not degrading them.
Right.
I'm not calling them names. I'm not saying you're going to do so and so. I'm not belittling them.
Right.
Because if I belittle them, and I do the exact thing that
the world
Catholics
does.
do,
Right.
guess what? I'm filling myself with pride, and I think I'm better than that person. But we shouldn't be doing that. And it breaks one of the teachings in the Bible. What is the one thing that Lucifer got kicked out of heaven for? It was because of his pride. Pride is the number one thing that can creep up on us. And sometimes we may not even realize it.
Right.
There's times where I realize, I say something completely. Like, I play video games, and, I get cocky once in a while.
I don't
And
believe
so,
it for a second.
I say something, and then realize, 1 second later, I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I'm being prideful. And so I reject that statement, and I say sorry if they want to hear me say sorry. Sometimes they look at me and be like, why are you saying sorry? It's like, well, that's because I'm being prideful, and I don't like that. I want to avoid doing that sort of stuff. Some of my friends say, oh, well, nothing's that bad. Really? So if I was to say, your own mother or own father, or someone that you genuinely just care for, right? If you saw society using their name as a curse word or an insult,
Right.
would you guys do that? Or would you be, upset, sad, offended? You wouldn't want that, would you?
Yes.
A whole society doing that sort of stuff? It's not fun. And, he doesn't like it at all. And so, the more we go closer to God, the more humble we get. The more humble we get, the more friends that we make, the more people we see. Heck, you might meet people across the world who actually genuinely need help. Mm-hmm. Ironically, my friend at that time needed help because she's gone through all of this sort of stuff, and she hasn't had a Christian come up to her and tell her about all the rules, all the stuff in the Bible. If she has questions, I answer it. And surprisingly, the one thing that she said is, you could be a youth pastor. I'm like, do you realize how much I have heard that saying a lot? I'm like, I get that. I was like, I get that way more often than I can count.
Right.
But here's the thing. One thing I want my generation to understand is that you guys got to be out there for somebody. You have to. You just have to. I understand sometimes it may be a burden, but guess what? There's times where you have to carry someone's burden. You have to be there for someone. Because if you're not there for someone and you let that go, then that person will go. But it's not going to be in the way that you guys think. They might take someone with them, or they'll take themselves out. And I'm telling you now, that is a feeling that you will regret for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. I say that with full honesty because I've also had a friend who's taken their lives because they could not get the help that they needed. And it sucks because I pray, that people who are hurting like that and people who need that, there needs to be more people out in the world for that. Because what we see nowadays? We see, how men look, how women look. I'm not going to sit there and say one gender is better than the other. No, both of them are at fault. We look at men in this generation. What do they see? They see a woman as an object, which is terrible, first off. Very terrible. You look at the guys, what is it called, frat parties? and whatnot, as ironically as that says, right? You have guys who are constantly going to girls, filling in their desires, their lusts, and so on and so forth, right? And they're like, yeah, I came back and, I did all this or that, and all the guys applaud him. And they just sit there and use that. You don't see guys opening doors for girls. You don't see that sort of stuff anymore. And ironically, there's a phrase in one of the games I play, and he says, chivalry is dead.
Mm.
As ironic as that sounds, and as much as you guys see as the world of, that being almost true, it's not. There are guys out there who are genuinely nice and caring. There are people out there who do show love and affection. However, it's very rare. Because the way guys are, imaged as now, we're supposed to be hefty men, women are subjugated, they're not seen as equals, right? And it sucks. And then on the women's side, they see guys almost in the same light. Or they're like, we don't need guys. And it sucks to hear that. Because they'd rather go to a guy who would treat them badly.
Yep.
And then after a few years, and as they grow up and mature, and this is something I found out interesting, is throughout their going of age and they keep growing, right, and stop doing all the stuff that they usually do, they'll realize that the people that they hanged out with are completely opposite of what they wanted. Mm-hmm. They don't have a caring, loving father. They don't have someone who genuinely cares for their child. I spent I'm not going to say a couple of years, but I spent some amount of time in a women's abuse shelter. I took care of roughly 4. So roughly 4 kids. Very young. Very young. And their mothers were pretty young as well. I think I was, 16 at the time?
Mm-hmm.
So 16. At age 16. I'm in a women's homeless abuse shelter because my mom had to go through some stuff, my sister had to go through some stuff, and I myself had to go through stuff because my dads were absolute terror. And one of the dads that, should have been with me, sadly, he passed away. I still have something that remembers him, and I have another thing that remembers him, which is my middle name. But because of his action, and because of his humbleness, and because of him willing to risk his life for me and my mother, I was able to stand here today. I'm able to help the people that I'm able to help. And so on. When it comes to the fact of society, we look at society, we see how it's crumbling, we see all the situations that men do, we see all the things that women do, and it just seems so messed up. But the one thing that, the Lord teaches us is to be humble. Because if we're not, guess what? It's just going to go
Fall in the trap.
And you're going to fall in the trap. You're going to see people, because ironically, my friend, right, I teach him a little bit about, Christianity, and he was like, oh, you're going to start being homophobic. I was like, no. I can disapprove of what you want to do or how your lifestyle is, but I'll still love you as an individual.
That's right.
Just because you're doing something that I don't like and I don't approve does not mean that I have to follow exactly what you have to follow. And they see some of that. Some people see that as homophobic. Mm-hmm. And it sucks because you can't really change their mind. Because they look at the words in the Bible, they see, how it's an abomination and so on and so forth. I'm not judging you, but I'm disapproving you. The Father, He loves you. He loves you guys. But you do stuff that the Father doesn't like.
You hate the sin, but love the sinner.
You hate the sin and love the sinner. That's what my mom says, and that's what the Bible says. So.
All right, so what's the big idea of what you're saying tonight? Sum it up in one good sentence.
Please reach your hand out to people who need it. Because if you do not do that, they will fall, or they'll take people with them. But you guys need to be there for the people. Whether they're getting bullied, or whether they're going through a rough time. Any questions?
sinner, hate the sin, and people are just like, oh, that's so like something cool because like you don't agree with like, the lifestyle and stuff like that. And like I agree. Like I don't think you should agree with the lifestyle of the living, but you should still love them regardless. Just 'cause, like the same thing Jesus did. Let me think of an example. There was a lady that she got married to a man and she was living with another man, and that was complicated. Jesus was like talking to her, and Jesus still loved her and told her that she was like that she would forgive him and that she would forgive her, and she went out to tell everybody about that. But it was just like if God is if Jesus is doing this with other people, why don't other people do the same with people today? Like,
So, funny thing about that actually, I made a very, very common example of that. And I looked at them and I was just like, well, are you going to tell the people of all traditions that they're so-and-so because they follow certain traditions? But if you tell them not to do that, you're completely discriminating against their culture, their beliefs. And what's ironic is that's actually hypocritical of them saying that. Because they want you to believe what they want to believe, but you can't believe in what you want to believe.
Right.
And they're being extremely hypocritical because that's pretty much saying, yes, all those generations, all those times, of your family lineage doing something, yeah, just cut it off like that. There's no sentimental value. Now that's being highly, highly hypocritical. And I don't think people realize that to this day necessarily, but it's something that people need to reflect on. And I'm not saying that Christians are better than other people. No, we're all equal in general. We're all sinners in general. We come to church for what? Praise Jesus, and to pray to Him, and to have Him forgive us for our sin. We're not innocent. We're not better than anybody. You're not better than one person. No one is better than another. And anyone who says that is just being either one, prideful, or two, just outright lying and just spewing out of their rear end. Any other questions? You got one, David?
Nope.
All right, David.